at 1 hour, 57 minutes, 38 seconds. About 53 minutes left, and I'll start right where we left.
Can you may continue with cross-examination?
Good morning. And after court recess tomorrow, we discovered we have some future facts.
We do?
Yes, excuse me. All right. I'd like to first ask you, do you know Marion Barnes?
No.
Never met her?
No.
When you and Susan were working on Easter in New York, was Susan living at Beekman Place?
Yes.
Did you visit her there?
Maybe once.
Okay, so you never met Marion Barnes, then
No.
or now?
No.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about this statement. As we agreed with the record yesterday, the statement was not going into all the things that the claimant said. When we talk about the statement, is what you say you remember now that Susan Berman said.
Yes.
Okay. Yesterday you mentioned conflating some of the events. Recall doing that?
Yes.
You have some training in psychology, and so conflating has a particular meaning for you,
Yes.
and that meaning is,
Combining two events into one.
and memory sometimes plays tricks on stuff.
It does.
And so when you conceded, very frankly, that you might have been conflating two different periods of time as to when Susan was talking, that was a concession to the vagaries of memory, wasn't it?
Correct.
Now, you also have heard the terminology of false memory, haven't you?
Yes.
And I presume you've heard the, this is the principle of induced memory,
Oh, yes.
suggestibility to memory can happen, can't it?
Yes, sir.
So, I'm not asking you to comment now on whether, in your opinion, your memory of the statement is a false memory or an induced memory or something that's been suggested to you. But I want to go over the facts as you have related them to several people, to the prosecution, to Recce, to yourself in your timeline, and so forth. And see if we can straighten out the memories. Fair enough?
We could try.
Okay. Of course, there's no plug that you can put your finger in and figure this all out.
Precisely.
Now, as we establish the timeline, which is our Exhibit 5P, is your work. That's your work product. We'll put it on the screen. And I'd like to refer you to the second page of it. And particularly to the entry on the line that starts 8/19/2011. That's your on-camera interview with Andrew DeGuerin.
Correct.
Read in the record with us, just so we can talk about it, what that said. 8/19, August 19, 2011. On-camera interview with Andrew DeGuerin. LO, meaning Lynda Obst, does nothing between interview and premiere. Virtually forgets she was interviewed. Have I read it correctly?
Correct.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And so the the record and the court can understand. Sometimes you refer to yourself in the first person, other times LO for Lynda Obst in the third person.
Apparently.
Well, it's your work, so I'm just asking you if that was
Yes.
what happened. All right. I want to refer you to the exhibit, Your Honor, that I'm going to refer to as the March 20th, 2015 interview of Mr. Lewin and his crew, and the transcript of it.
Is that the mark?
Exhibit number is
No, this is,
50.
okay, sidebar.
Like a pirate.
Or a pirate. Right, yeah, that's
So I want to refer you to the interview that you did with Mr. Lewin in 2015. Let's start with page 50. About the middle of the page. Highlight the beginning. So this is Mr. Lewin's question. When's the first time, if ever, you could remember her discussing Kathy's disappearance and any role or knowledge she might have about it? And your answer is, this is where it gets tricky.
Yes.
And what you're referring there to is your memory about it.
Yes.
Because after all, it is 30-some-odd years after.
Yes.
And then you start to explain. After I did my thing with Andrew, which started, I got shot for the Jinx. And that was back in August of 2011, right? Have I read that correctly?
Yes.
So the subject matter now is you're talking about your review, your interview with Mr. Durecki being filmed. And let's go to the next page. Oh, well, let's go to the bottom of that page where it says, you say, it started stirring up memories for me. And then sometime soon after that, maybe within a week, I read it correctly?
Yes, sir.
And that was what you were saying. He goes to the next page. This would be page 51 of 5R. Mr. Lewin asked you a week or two of what? Filming, and you confirmed that of being filmed. So a week, you say here a week of two of being filmed, you went online and read an article about Susan's death. I think it was called Who Killed the Gangster's Daughter? That's you volunteering that information to Mr. Lewin, correct?
Yes, but this is incorrect information.
So you gave Mr. Lewin the incorrect information?
I did. By mistake.
Okay, but you go on to explain it. Let me get through it so we can see how detailed the information was. You said you hadn't done that. I hadn't read that article, and as I'm reading it, I read this sentence that says, somebody called at Albert Einstein Medical Center claiming to be Kathy Durst. And all of a sudden, I had this terrible, terrible feeling. Because suddenly I had never read the words or heard the words Albert Einstein Medical Center before. That was your explaining to Mr. Lewin. What triggered your memory, or
Yes, but it was incorrect.
What was incorrect about it?
It actually happened after I saw the episode, not after I was filmed.
Okay, so is that an example of conflating your memory?
I think it's an example of how traumatized I was after the interview that I blocked it completely.
The interview with Mr. Jarecki?
Yes,
That Mr. Jarecki's interview traumatized you?
it did. That's why I blocked it. I was very scared after I did it, and I regretted doing it.
Of course, you didn't say anything in the interview about Susan Berman giving you information, did you?
No, I didn't remember it during the interview.
And you didn't say anything about your conclusion, your suspicion that Bob Durst was responsible for Susan's death.
It was the first time I've thought about both of them for probably 30, 35 years. And after the interview was over, many things were stirred up that frightened me a great deal, and I tried to forget it immediately. And I told no one I even did the interview, and proceeded to go into denial.
Okay, well, let's look at what you said about that in your timeline. If we can have page 2 of the timeline, which is Exhibit 5P. In the line, again, as we've just seen, you're saying on 8/19/2011, on-camera interview with Andrew Jarecki, Lynda Obst, does nothing between interview and premiere. Virtually forgets she was interviewed. That's a little bit of conflict with what you're saying now, isn't it?
No, it's exactly the same.
Okay, well, today you say you were traumatized.
That's right.
But you did put that in this timeline that was intended for the prosecution, wasn't it?
Well, that's the explanation for why I virtually forgot I was interviewed. I was terrified. I went into denial, told no one that I was interviewed, and did my best to forget it.
Okay, so we can make, be sure that we have your today version of the facts. It is that when you told Mr. Lewis in 2015 that you had read the article about Susan's death 2 weeks after the Jarecki interview, that's not true.
It was 2 weeks after it was during the aftermath of the Jarecki airing, not the interview. I got that confused.
I hear that, but my question was more specific than that. So we're clear that today you're saying what you told Mr. Lewis, that you read the article 2 weeks about after the Jarecki interview, that's not true.
Correct.
So then you did not have any recollection of the Albert Einstein Medical School or Medical Center back in 2011.
Correct.
And what you told us yesterday and today, and what you told Mr. Lewis in 2015 and again in January this year, was that it was the February 22nd sequence, or segment, of the jinx that suggested to you Albert Einstein Medical Center, and that Susan must have told you that. Correct?
Correct.
Now, the sequence played in February of 2015, February 22nd. We have that isolated here, and we'll play it in just a moment. Your testimony now is that that's the first time in over 30 years that it registered with you that Susan must have said something about Einstein Medical Center. Is that right?
Correct.
Can we call that An epiphany? Is that too strong a word? How about a eureka moment?
I think that's closer.
Which one?
Eureka.
Okay.
Well, a depressing eureka.
I'm sorry?
A depressing eureka.
But a revelation.
A revelation.
Again, you agree with me, with your psychological background on it, that there are such things as false memory.
Under very specific circumstances.
And there are such things as suggested memories.
Under very specific
And
circumstances.
there are such things as implanted memories.
Under even more specific circumstances.
Wouldn't you agree with me that the longer from the event, the more likely it is that a memory can be a false memory?
Not necessarily.
Doesn't memory fade with time?
Well, implanted memories and,
My question is, doesn't memory fade with time?
memories fade with time, but that has nothing to do with implanted memories or false memories.
So, let's look at the segment that caused your eureka moment, or your epiphany, or whatever, revelation. Your Honor, first, as housekeeping, we move to introduce, not for the truth of the matter, the entire Jinx production. And we have it on DVD. We'll move to introduce it, not for the truth of the matter, as 5 yes.
Market for identification.
What we are introducing is the version that was broadcast. It does not say, and of course we can't see the whole thing right now, and I understand their reluctance to agree that it's what was broadcast, but we believe that it is, and we can count it.
We have the stipulation in order for your purposes, which would be that in the questions you were going to be asking, you are assuming that this was the version that was aired on television that Ms. Obst would have seen, and that you're asking questions pursuant to that. Is that a fair stipulation?
What I believe we will be, what I know we will be referring to, I believe, is what was broadcast. We have a transcript that matches the clip that we intend to play. And so what my offer is, the entire sequence, the entire show, what we want to show today is the sequence of that played on February the 22nd, 2015, that Ms. Obst had referred to.
So
It's
again,
episode 3.
you're marking it and you're what? Yes.
Yes, my best. The clip that we will play is from episode 3. It goes from 8 minutes and 38 seconds into a clip, or into the segment, to 12 minutes and 27 seconds into the segment. So it's roughly 5 minutes long.
Very well. We wish you
And-
and so Mark.
So maybe play.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She even had his mugshot framed in the living room.
Something happened when she met Bobby Durst. It was like, here's a man as powerful as my father. He is connected, he has money, he can always get out of trouble, and he needs me. And she always used to say, he needs me. We have a special friendship.
Years ago, Robert Durst told police he'd driven his wife from their country house in South Salem, New York, to this nearby train station, where she boarded the city-bound train, headed for their Manhattan apartment and a busy week in medical school. But no one close to Kathleen would see her again.
The beautiful wife of a wealthy Manhattan real estate developer has disappeared. And she was heard from Monday morning. Mrs. Durst was a fourth-year medical student here at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and she was to have a clinic class that morning, but she called up saying she wasn't feeling well, and she wouldn't be in that day. And as far as police know, that's the last time that anyone had contact with her. The dean at the medical school, obviously somebody was assisted Mr. Durst in calling him. I'll sit here today, my money would be that of Susan Berman. In our minds, Kathy made it to Manhattan, so with luck and a little bit of cunning, it slipped through. He got that one past us, I guess. Thank you.
That's the end of that. Now, I noticed you shaking your head while you're watching. What's the significance?
Excuse me. I find it very scary. I thought we were going to play the first episode that featured me, but I just opened this sequence.
Well, this sequence is February 22nd, the one
Right.
that you identified.
That's right.
That you
It is the right one. Sorry.
One that you say, February 22nd, caused your memory of the statement. Right?
Correct.
It's pretty clear from watching that Detective Struck, who is also reporting on this, has a theory.
Yes.
And his theory was that someone other than Kathy Durst called the Einstein Medical Center, right?
Yes.
Is that what suddenly caused you this revelation about Einstein Medical Center?
No.
Was it the article that you mistakenly told Mr. Lewin that you read right after the Jarecki interview in 2011?
No.
So when you testified here that it was you're watching that episode, the third episode, that you suddenly believed that you remembered that Susan Berman had made the statement to you.
Yes.
Okay. So was it any one thing in that segment, or was it a combination of things?
I think it was hearing Albert Einstein Medical Center started it, and then because she had said Albert Einstein Medical Center, so I believe that was the trigger. And then the context suddenly became clear to me that she had been speaking about at the time when I hadn't focused. I knew she had been the spokesman for Bobby. She had talked about that a great deal.
So right there. Being the spokesman for Bobby, there's no question that occurred, and nobody's contesting that. In fact, she dealt with the press. You know that, don't you?
Right. I always knew that, but I did not know the Albert Einstein piece until this moment, and it was blood-curdling for me.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
The question is, do you think there's a possibility you're conflating Susan Berman telling you that she was handling the press with the idea that's implanted in anybody's mind by that video that Strutt believes it was somebody else, maybe Susan Berman, that made the call to Albert Einstein?
No.
Well, when you told Mr. Lewis, as we've established you did, that what triggered or brought up or suggested your memory of the statement was reading the article entitled The Gangster's Dog, Who Killed the Gangster's Dog. You did say that, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I was mistaken.
I understand you were mistaken.
It's not even in that article.
Exactly. So you read it overnight, haven't you?
I read it subsequently.
When?
Since talking to Mr. Lewin,
Since talking to Mr. Louis, which time?
after I made the mistake.
Okay, well.
I realized in reviewing, sorry,
Okay, wait, we don't have to justify or explain.
You first talked to Mr. Louis in 2015, March of 2015.
mhm.
You have to say this. You have to verbalize your answer.
Yes, sir.
And you talked to Mr. Lewin again in January of this year.
Correct.
I assume that you have talked to some of the either prosecutors or investigators in the time that you've been here for your testimony.
I don't understand the question.
Have you spoken on the subject with Mr. Lewin or his crew since you've been here to testify?
No,
When did you discover that, in fact, there's no mention of Albert Einstein Medical School in the Lisa de Paulo, that's D-I-P-A-U-L-O, article entitled, Who Killed the Gangster Daughter?
at some point between my first conversation and with Mr. Lewin and now. I don't remember exactly at what point.
Okay, there are two reference conversations, one in 2015 and one in 2017. Was it after the 2015 but before the 2017 conversation?
I don't know.
Has it been more recently, like in the last few days?
No,
When was the last that you read it more than once?
no,
The article, I mean.
No.
Lisa DeGuerin. You have not?
no.
Well, when you read the article by Lisa DePaulo and realized that you were mistaken, that in fact that's not where Albert Einstein Medical School came from, or medical center came from, did you make any effort to correct that with the prosecution?
The prosecution and I discussed it, and it was one of the ways in which it was very clear that the only time I ever heard about it was in the Jinx.
I'm not sure that that's exactly an answer to my question. My question is more pointed. Did you ever, in conversations with Mr. Lewin and his crew, correct what you now realize was a mistake that you made in 2015 by saying you got it from the Lisa DePaulo article?
Yes,
When?
in conversations with them. I think the second conversation we had.
The one in January 2017.
That might be the day.
Specifically, the reason I'm getting pointed about that is that we have, of course, your 2017 interview and so forth. It's all recorded, it's all transcribed. And you would be surprised that there is nothing in there but you say, Mr. Lewin, or words to this effect, I was wrong when I told you. I got it out of the article back after Mr. Reckoning. There's nothing in there. We take it on faith.
I don't know. What's in the transcript?
So it's because you haven't seen the transcript or listened to it. Is that right?
I think I saw the first transcript. I'm not sure if I saw the second transcript.
The first transcript is the one that was, that you told us yesterday was sent to your lawyer.
That's right.
Let's identify from the record. It's Lev
Ginsburg.
right? You may have already done that on the record. So you had a chance to go over your testimony or your interview with Mr. Lewin.
May I explain?
Did you have a chance to go over your interview with Mr. Lewin that had been supplied to your lawyer? Yes or no?
I was interviewed by Mr. Lewin again.
That's not a question.
Okay.
After the March 2015 interview, which you now know is recorded and has been transcribed, which we've been quoting from, and showing you clips from. Mr. Lewin or someone supplied it to your lawyer, Lev Ginsburg, right?
Yes.
Did you review that transcript?
I looked at it, yes.
Okay.
It was at that.
You take it on faith, without reading every page of the 20-page transcript of your January interview, that there's nothing in there which you correct the statement that you made.
Well, I
You
do
say,
believe,
I was wrong about that, I didn't read it in the end.
I don't know what's in the transcript, but I did tell John Lewin that it was mistaken, that I had come to the revelation after the interview, that in fact it had happened, that I misspoke, and in fact it had happened after the airing of the Jenks. And that as a result, that must have been the time that I read the article. Because I frankly don't remember when I read the article.
Did anyone else bring the mistake to your attention, or did you see the mistake yourself?
I saw a mistake in the transcript
When did you do that?
when I reviewed the transcript.
When was that?
I don't remember.
Sometime between 2015 and 2017.
Yes.
You can't get any closer to it than that?
No, sir, I have a big job.
Ask you why, I just asked you, you did forget to do it, right?
Excuse me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My question was, you can't get any closer to when you say you discovered this mistake, other than sometime between March of 2017 and March of 2015 and January of 2017.
It was when I reviewed the transcript. I saw it was wrong.
But you can't tell us when that.
No.
If you know or you being recorded when you claimed you told Mr. Lewin about the mistake,
I did not know whether I was being recorded or not.
was it on the phone?
No.
The person?
Yes.
Where?
My house.
Mr. Lewin came to your house?
Yes.
When?
When? The day that you have marked on your transcript.
Here's my point. You've told us now that you told Mr. Lewin that you made a mistake when you talked to him in March of 2015, and you told him that in person when he came to your house. So my question is, when did he come to your house other than March the 20th, 2015?
Mr. DeGuerin, I would need my calendar to be able to answer that question.
Did he come to your house after the long session that you had with him and Mr. Bailey and Severisi and so forth in March of 2015? Did he come to your house again?
After March of last year?
March of 2015.
Yes, he's been there one more time.
Okay, and you were interviewed that time.
Yes.
You were part of the reason that you came forward, just coming forward. You first, after this revelation, you first called Andrew Jurecki.
Yes.
You knew that he had been working with the district attorney's office.
Yes.
In fact, when you interviewed with him back in 2011, that's when he told you.
Yes.
Okay. And so when he told you to call Mr. Lewin, you weren't surprised at that, were you? That's an easy question. When Mr.
Was I
Jurecki,
surprised? Excuse me?
when Mr. Jurecki told you you should call John Lewin, he'd been working with him, you weren't surprised, were you?
At that point, I wasn't clear about how critical the information I had was.
I didn't ask you that. My question is, you weren't surprised that Mr. Jurecki would tell you to call Mr. Lewin because you had been working together, isn't that right?
It made sense in that way.
Okay. And then you called Mr. Ginsburg, and you called the other assistant district attorney that you had breakfast with on a regular basis, and finally you called Mr. Lewin.
First, I called him to talk to Mr. Ehrlich at Breakfast Club.
Yes, that's the assistant district attorney that you had breakfast with.
Yes.
You came forward in part because you wanted to see Bob Durst in jail. Is that right?
I wanted justice for Susan.
Didn't you come forward in part because you wanted to see Bob Durst in jail?
Frankly, I didn't really want to come forward. I was persuaded to come forward because I was persuaded that the information that I had was important and it could help get justice for Susan.
I want to play or show you a clip from 5R, page 102. This is the much shorter 5R, page 102, line 19.
I did say that.
That's toward the very end of the interview. You said it before that, haven't you? But part of your motivation here because you want to see longer 5R.
Well, that,
There was a chance to kill 3 people, and
That's a yes or no.
yes.
And on page 69, the same interview, line 14 and 15. I would like to get him behind bars, clearly. It's your statement.
it is.
And that's how you feel. That's your motivation for being here.
It's not my sole motivation, but I suppose I find him very scary.
Would you want a person to be convicted on loosey-goosey information?
No.
That's all.
Hey, direct.
So, you're almost done, I promise. Whose request was it to get transcripts of the interviews? Was it us telling you we'd like you to read this, or was it your lawyer saying, you know what, I want copies of this material?
My attorney.
You were asked previously a lot of questions about, armchair psychoanalysis and conflation of memories, etc. When you and Susan talked, were you talking as close friends as well?
Yes, we were.
And in terms of what you said about psychoanalysis, was there any professional therapy that you were giving at that time, or were you relating to her in reference to working on the screenplay?
It was always in reference to the screenplay.
Now, you've been asked about conflating and false memory and suggestibility. Let me ask you, on a scale of 1 to 100, how certain are you that Susan's statement that she had told you, I want to back up a second, I apologize. Yesterday, when you were discussing the statement that Susan Berman had made to you, at one point in time, you were asked by Mr. DeGuerin to give the full statement that she had said. And you did not add the part where it said that Susan said she pretended to be Kathy. I want to ask you, when Susan made a statement to you, did she tell you that she made the call pretending to be Kathy?
Yes.
Any doubt in your mind?
No.
And have you previously said this in interviews with the district attorney's office?
Yes.
With respect to the idea that, and now I'm going to incorporate, as Mr. DeGuerin had said, I'm going to refer to the statement. And when I refer to the statement, I'm talking about, in essence, and I'm paraphrasing, that Susan told you that she called Albert Einstein Medical School pretending to be Kathy. So I'm adding
Yes.
So I want to ask you, with respect to that statement, on a scale of 1 to 100, with 1 being, you know what, I have no idea whether I heard that or not, and 100 being, I am positive that Susan told me, if not in those exact words, that idea. How sure are you?
98.
And when you say 98, for you, what does it take for you to be 100?
A recording that occurred this afternoon that I'm playing back a minute later.
So in terms of, to the best of your memory, is there any doubt in your mind that that statement was made?
No, or I wouldn't be here.
And when you were asked before about whether or not you were conflating something, what about that?
I know when I'm conflating something. I've looked at this very carefully, and I clearly conflated watching the show, the episode, and being interviewed, but conflating what somebody else said in the episode versus what Susan said to me, there's no possibility that was conflated.
And would that be the same answer with respect to false memory?
False memory is very specific. It has a psychological bias.
Any question in your mind that this statement was a product of false memory?
No.
Any question in your mind that this statement was a product of suggestibility?
No.
Are you ever going to forget that statement?
No.
Would you like to have forgotten that statement?
Yes.
What was it when you first remember you called Andrew directly, correct?
Excuse me?
When you heard the statement during the chase, by the statement you heard Albert Einstein mention, you ended up calling Andrew directly, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Directly told you to call me, correct?
Yes.
You didn't do it.
No.
You then called, next in line was Ryan Earl.
Yes.
And Ryan Ehrlich said, you know, this is important information, you need to disclose it, correct?
Yes.
You didn't do it.
No.
You then called your own lawyer, is that
Yes.
correct? And your lawyer said, you need to disclose this information, correct?
Yes.
You didn't immediately do it, correct?
No.
Is that correct? I asked you?
Yes, that's correct.
You were asked specifically, Ms. Obst,
Mhm.
when it was that you remembered, when it was that you related to myself, the investigators, the other alien who was involved, that you had made a mistake with respect to the article and what it contained. And you said you don't remember the exact date, is that correct?
Correct.
Have a report dated March 20th, 2017, paid stamp 152769.
Equals, where are we now?
Like the Marcus
16.
16? 16. On March 20th, 2017, Deputy District Attorney John Dillon, DGA of Deep Bailey, and I met with Lynda Obst. In preparation for Obst's judicial exam, we intended to go over the first interview with her and clarify facts that we had further questioned about or clarified. When reviewing her statement about when she read the article, quote, "Who Killed the Gangster's Daughter," she had originally told us she read the article a week or two of being filmed for the HBO series, The Chase, The Life and Deaths of Robert Durst. She now more clearly remembers she read the article a week or two after watching episode 4 of The Chase. When she watched the episode, she remembered that she already knew about the information of a phone call that was made allegedly from Kathy Durst to Dean Cooperman at Albert Einstein College of Medicine. She went online at that time and read the same information in the article. She reiterated that she knew about the phone call years prior to the article being written and the change being filmed. This was the phone call she knew about directly from Susan Berman, who told her she made the phone call pretending to be Kathy in order to tell about Robert Durst. Obst also clarified that upon realizing she had known about the phone call for years, she called Andrew Durecki, then her friend, DA Ryan Lewis, then her entertainment attorney, Les Ginsburg, and then called DA John Lewis. I'm not going to read the rest because it doesn't pertain. Do you recall making that statement?
Yes, I do.
And at the time that you made the statement, does March 20th, 2017, does that sound consistent with when you think you would have made that statement?
Yes.
I should have said it was a two-page statement. I don't think I qualified that.
That's it.
2 pages. So I'm simply clarifying, when I marked it, I didn't say it was 2 pages. I was like, recording over it. People's 16 was 2 pages.
Thank you.
May I inquire of counsel whether he's including just the title pages, is more than 2 pages? Yes, I am. That clarifies that. This is defense, R. 5 hours.
That sounds more like a pirate.
He's a better, I thought he sounded like a pirate. He's a better design. I'm on page 69. Now, you were asked about a comment where you used the word, but I felt my information was a little loosey-goosey. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did you have a chance to look at the full quote of what you said?
No.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes. Reject it.
Yeah, I'll put it up here. I would like you, Ms. Obst, if you can, to start with, let's start with line 14. You just read it to yourself. I want you to go down to the bottom of that page.
Yeah. Exactly.
Were you saying, ma'am, that you were loosey-goosey about, quote, the statement that Susan gave you?
No.
What were you saying you were loosey-goosey about?
I didn't know at what point in the 5 years that we worked and discussed her relationship with Bobby, the statement was made. It could have been at any point in those many myriads of conversations.
And as far as you can recall, and you don't have a transcript recording in front of you, this appeared to be an accurate depiction of the interview, the words you used,
Yes.
the words that were said to you. Is that yes?
Yes.
And you were also asked questions by the defense a moment ago regarding your desire to help put this guy behind bars. Do you remember those series of questions?
Yes.
I'm going to mark, Your Honor, People 17. This is January 11, 2017 interview with Ms. Obst. It starts date stamp number 152907. It was turned over along with the other discovery on April 11th this year. Oh, it's going to be page 16. I would like you, if you can, ma'am, I would like you to just start reading yourself at page, I'm sorry, line 9.
Want me to read?
Yeah, just to yourself, read line 9. By the way, for the record, ma'am, you are L, is that correct?
Yes.
Let me know when you're finished. Ma'am, were you saying that you wanted to put Bob Durst behind bars because you had some kind of personal animosity or issue with him?
No, I barely knew him.
What were you saying, ma'am?
That I thought he killed Susan, and I cared about Susan.
And in terms of the information that you have, did you indicate that you believe that you had information that might help the prosecution?
Yes,
And was your point by saying help the prosecution? Did that mean that you were on a team trying to unfairly and unjustly have Robert Durst convicted of murder? Or were you saying that you had information that you thought was relevant to the investigation and to his prosecution?
the latter.
As you sit here today, you've been in court yesterday, you've been in court today, is this an experience that you ever wanted?
Oh Lord, no.
Are you aware that your name's been in the paper the last 24 hours?
Yes, a few people sent me articles.
In terms of publicity for yourself, given your position and what you do, is this the kind of thing that is in any way helpful to your career?
On the contrary,
Can you explain?
it is not good for a movie producer to be associated with a murder trial.
And in the end, if I would ask you, can you tell us, why are you here?
For justice.
No further questions, Your Honor?
Additional cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
And I do it to be excused.
Full trial.
No objection. So you are excused. Good day.
Hey, Mr. Anderson, do you have exhibits to mark?
Yes, Your Honor. We've completed the testimony of Lynda Obst. I'll mark as People's 110B, identification, 2-page document. This correlates the exhibits played in the video with the new exhibits for trial. Marking as 110C, this is a 17-page transcript. In the video, that was 15A. Marking 110D, it's a 2-page document. In the video, it was 16. Marking 110E, it's a 10-page transcript. In the video, it was 17. Marking 110F, it's a 2-page document. In the video, it was 5 Ps. Marking 110G, it's a 103-page transcript. In the video, it was 5 Rs.
That's the pirate one.
It's the pirate one, Your Honor. And finally, the snake one, People's 110H, was 5 S's.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a recess till 10:45. Do not converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this case. Do not form or express any opinion on the case.